The sharp clink of champagne glasses cut through the morning air, but it was the silence between them that screamed loudest. Riley Carter, 28, stood behind the bar, her callous fingers gripping a bottle of Dom Perignon like it was her lifeline. Her cropped dark hair caught the early sunlight, and her jaw clenched as she watched the wedding setup unfold on the rooftop of Manhattan's most exclusive venue. The scent of fresh roses mixed with the faint tang of her own sweat. She'd been hauling crates since 5 a.m. to make this perfect for someone else's love story. Always someone else's. Across the garden, Mia Harper, 32, moved like a conductor of chaos, her sleek blazer hugging her frame as she adjusted table settings with surgical precision. Her hazel eyes darted toward Riley, lingering a second too long before snapping back to the clipboard in her hand. The wedding planner's life was a masterclass in control, but Riley's presence, her quiet defiance, the way her laugh carried over the clatter of setup, made Mia's pulse stutter. They'd met 6 months ago, when Riley was hired as a last-minute bartender for one of Mia's high-profile gigs. A spilled drink, a shared laugh, a brush of hands that lingered. Since then, stolen glances and late-night talks over leftover wine had woven a thread of something unspoken, something dangerous. Riley, a foster kid turned bartender, wore her heart like a bruise, raw guarded. Mia, polished and ambitious, had spent years building a name in New York's cutthroat event industry, her own desires buried under layers of professionalism. They were opposites yet tethered, each daring the other to cross a line neither could name. Today, though, was different. The wedding was for billionaire heiress Cassandra Vale, a media darling whose engagement to tech mogul Ethan Blake had dominated tabloids. One tiny error at this ceremony could ruin Mia's career. And Riley? She was just here to pour drinks, to stay invisible. But the air between them crackled with a truth they couldn't ignore. This day would change everything. The hook. One misstep at the city's grandest wedding, and Riley's world collides with Mia's in a way neither expected, exposing a secret that could unravel them both. Riley wiped a bead of sweat from her brow, the rooftop's heat pressing against her skin. The city hummed below. Car horns, distant sirens, the pulse of New York that never slept. She caught Mia's eye again, and this time Mia didn't look away. A flush crept up Mia's neck, her fingers fumbling with the ribbon. Riley's heart thudded, a low drumbeat of want she'd spent months trying to silence. "Focus, Carter," she muttered under her breath, pouring another flute of champagne. But her hands shook, betraying her. She wasn't just pouring drinks today. She was pouring herself into a moment that felt like it could break her. Mia crossed the rooftop, her heels clicking against the polished stone. "Riley," she said, her voice low, almost drowned by the rustle of tablecloths in the breeze. "You're spilling." Riley glanced down. A thin stream of champagne had missed the glass, pooling on the bar. She cursed softly, grabbing a rag. "Sorry. Got distracted." Mia's lips twitched, a half-smile that didn't reach her eyes. "By what?" Her tone was teasing, but there was a weight to it, a question neither of them had dared ask outright. Riley's throat tightened. She wanted to say it's always you, but the words stuck. Instead, she smirked, leaning closer. "Your clipboard's crooked. Ruining the aesthetic." Mia laughed, a soft sound that felt like a gift. For a moment, the chaos of the wedding faded. It was just them, the city skyline framing their quiet rebellion. But then a shout broke the spell. Cassandra's assistant, barking orders about the floral arches. Mia stiffened, her professional mask slipping back into place. "Don't mess this up, okay?" Mia said, her voice softer now, almost pleading. "I can't afford mistakes today." Riley nodded, but her chest ached. Mistakes were all she knew. Her life was a patchwork of them. Growing up in foster homes, scraping by in dive bars, falling for a woman like Mia who was so far out of her league it hurt to think about. But Mia didn't know that part of her, not really. And Riley wasn't sure she ever would. As Mia walked away, Riley's gaze lingered on the sway of her hips, the way her hair caught the light. She didn't see the tray of glasses behind her until it was too late. Her elbow clipped the edge and the crash was deafening, crystal shattering across the stone floor. 1,000 tiny shards glinting in the sun. Heads turned. Mia froze, her clipboard clutched like a shield. Cassandra's assistant stormed over, her voice a whip. What the hell was that? Do you know how much those cost? Riley's face burned. I'll clean it up, she stammered, dropping to her knees. The glass cut into her palm, a sharp sting that grounded her. She heard Mia's quick intake of breath, felt her presence nearby but didn't look up. Not now. Not when she'd already fucked up. Mia knelt beside her, her hand brushing Riley's as she helped gather the shards. Their fingers lingered, a fleeting warmth in the chaos. You okay? Mia whispered, her voice barely audible over the assistant's tirade. Riley nodded, but her throat was tight. Just another day in paradise. Mia's eyes softened, and for a moment, Riley thought she might say something real, something that could bridge the gap between them. But then the assistant snapped again and Mia stood, her mask back in place. The moment was gone. The ceremony loomed closer, the rooftop transforming into a vision of white roses and gold accents. Riley worked in silence, her hands steady now, her mind racing. She didn't belong here. Not in this world of wealth and perfection, not in Mia's orbit. But every time Mia passed by, her gaze lingered, and Riley felt the pull again. Like gravity she couldn't escape. Then it happened. The officiant, a wiry man with a nervous tic, approached Mia with a clipboard of his own. There's a problem, he said, his voice low but urgent. The marriage license, it's got the wrong name. Mia's face paled. What do you mean wrong name? He pointed to the document. Riley, wiping down the bar, overheard the words that stopped her cold. The bride's name is listed as Riley Carter, not Cassandra Vale. Riley's heart lurched. Her name. On a billionaire's marriage license. It was impossible, a clerical error. A glitch in Mia's perfect system. But as Mia's eyes met hers wide with shock, Riley knew this wasn't just a mistake. It was a spark, and this rooftop was about to catch fire. The rooftop spun in Riley's vision, the city skyline blurring as the officiant's words sank in. Her name, Riley Carter, on a marriage license meant for Cassandra Vale, the billionaire heiress whose wedding was plastered across every gossip site in New York. The air felt thick, heavy with the scent of roses and the distant hum of traffic below. Her pulse thundered in her ears, drowning out the officiant's nervous stammering. Mia's clipboard hit the table with a dull thud. How does this happen? She hissed, her voice low but sharp enough to cut glass. Her hazel eyes locked onto the officiant, who shrank under her gaze. You had one job, Harold. One. I don't know. Harold fumbled with the papers, his glasses slipping down his nose. The documents came from the city clerk. I just assumed. Assumed. Mia's voice cracked, a rare fracture in her polished facade. She turned to Riley, her expression a mix of panic and something softer, something that made Riley's chest ache. Riley, did you sign anything? Anything at all? Riley shook her head, her hand still stinging from the glass she'd cleaned up.
I pour drink, Mia.
I don't sign marriage licenses. Her voice was rough, edged with a sarcasm she didn't feel. Her mind raced. How had her name ended up on that paper? She was nobody, a bartender with a rap sheet of bad decisions and a closet full of thrift store clothes. This was a mistake, but it felt like a cruel joke. The officiant clutched the license like it was radioactive. It's a clerical error, obviously. We can fix it before the ceremony. No one has to know. But Riley saw the way Mia's jaw tightened, the way her fingers trembled as she snatched the document from Harold's hands. No one has to know? Mia repeated, her voice dangerously quiet. This is Cassandra Vale's wedding. The media's downstairs. One leak and my career is over. Yours too, Harold. Riley's stomach twisted. Mia's career, her whole world, was built on moments like this, on perfection. And now Riley's name, her existence, was the crack in that foundation. She wanted to disappear, to slip back into the shadows where she belonged. But Mia's eyes found hers again, and there it was, that unspoken thing between them, electric and terrifying. Fix it, Mia said to Harold, her voice steady now, but her gaze never left Riley. Now. Harold scurried off, muttering about phone calls and expedited corrections. The rooftop buzzed with setup. Caterers shouting, florists arranging last-minute bouquets, but Riley felt like she was underwater. Every sound muffled, every movement slow. She turned back to the bar, grabbing a rag to wipe down a surface that was already spotless. Anything to keep her hands busy, to keep her from falling apart. Mia stepped closer, her heels clicking softly. Riley, she said, her voice barely above a whisper. The scent of her perfume, something crisp, like citrus and cedar, cut through the floral haze. You didn't do this, right? Riley's laugh was bitter, a sharp exhale. What, you think I hacked the city clerk's office to make myself a billionaire's bride? Come on, Mia. I can barely afford rent. Mia's lips pressed into a thin line, but her eyes softened. I didn't mean it like that. This is insane. Yeah, well, insane's my brand. Riley tossed the rag aside, her hands shaking. She wanted to scream, to run, to grab Mia and demand why every look between them felt like a confession. Instead, she leaned against the bar, her voice low. You're freaking out because this could ruin you. But me? I'm nobody. This is just another day of me screwing things up. You're not nobody, Mia said, the words slipping out before she could stop them. Her hand twitched, like she wanted to reach out but didn't trust herself. Not to. She cut herself off, but the silence said enough. Riley's breath hitched, her heart a wild thing in her chest. She wanted to push, to make Mia say it, but the moment was shattered by Cassandra Vale's arrival. The heiress swept onto the rooftop like a storm, her white dress trailing behind her. Cameras flashing from the press cordoned off below. Her blonde hair gleamed, her smile practiced, but her eyes were sharp, scanning the setup with predatory precision. Mia, she called, her voice syrupy but laced with steel. Everything perfect. Mia straightened, her mask snapping back into place. Of course, Cassandra. We're on schedule. Cassandra's gaze flicked to Riley, lingering on her bartender's vest, the faint smear of blood on her hand from the glass. And you're Riley. Bartender. Riley's voice was flat, but her pulse spiked. Cassandra's stare felt like a spotlight, and Riley hated how small it made her feel. Charming, Cassandra said, already turning away. Mia, let's review the timeline. Ethan's arriving soon. Mia nodded, but as she followed Cassandra, she glanced back at Riley. One look quick and heavy like a promise she wasn't sure she could keep. The ceremony was an hour away, and the rooftop thrummed with tension. Riley poured drinks for the early guests. Investors, influencers, people who looked like they'd never known a bad day. Her hands moved on autopilot, but her mind was on that license, on Mia's voice, on the way her own name had become a grenade. Harold returned, his face flushed. It's sorted, he whispered to Mia, though Riley caught every word. The clerk's rushing a new license. It'll be here before the vows. Mia exhaled, a soft sound that carried more relief than she'd ever admit. Good. Keep it quiet. But Riley saw the way Harold's eyes darted, the way his hands shook as he tucked the original license into his pocket. Something wasn't right. She didn't trust him. Didn't trust this world of wealth and secrets where mistakes like this could happen. And she didn't trust herself to stay out of it. As the guests filled the rooftop, the sun climbed higher, casting golden light over the roses in gold accents. Riley's chest tightened with every laugh, every clink of glasses. She was invisible again, just the help, but the weight of her name on that license made her feel like a ghost haunting someone else's story. Then she saw Mia, standing alone by the floral arch, her clipboard forgotten on a table. Her shoulders were slumped, her fingers twisting a loose thread on her blazer. Riley's feet moved before her brain caught up, carrying her across the rooftop. Hey, Riley said, her voice rougher than she meant. You okay? Mia's head snapped up, her eyes glassy. I can't mess this up, Riley. This is everything I've worked for. Riley wanted to say something sharp, Something about how Mia's career wasn't worth more than what was brewing between them. But instead she stepped closer, close enough to feel the warmth of Mia's breath. "You won't. You're too good for that." Mia's laugh was small, fragile. "You don't get it. One tiny error and it's all gone." Riley's hand brushed Mia's, a fleeting touch that sent sparks up her arm. "Then let's make sure there's no more errors." For a moment they stood there, the world fading to the hum of the city and the soft rustle of Mia's blazer in the breeze. Riley wanted to freeze it, to hold on to this before the chaos came rushing back. But it didn't last. A shout from the officiant broke the spell, and Mia pulled away, her mask back in place. "I have to go," she said, but her eyes lingered, heavy with everything unsaid. As Mia walked away, Riley's gaze fell on the bar, where Harold had left his jacket. A corner of the marriage license peeked out, her name still scrawled across it. Her heart stopped. This wasn't over. The rooftop pulsed with anticipation, the air thick with perfume and the low murmur of guests settling into their seats. Riley stood behind the bar, her hands gripping a bottle of bourbon like it could anchor her to reality. The marriage license, tucked into Harold's jacket, burned in her peripheral vision. Her name, Riley Carter, on a document that could unravel everything. She didn't know how it happened, but the weight of it pressed against her chest, a ticking bomb in a world of roses and champagne. Mia was a blur across the rooftop, directing ushers with the precision of a general. Her blazer hugged her frame, her hair catching the midday sun, but Riley saw the strain in her movements, the way her fingers clenched her clipboard, the way her smile didn't reach her eyes. Mia was holding it together but barely, and Riley, invisible behind the bar, felt like the only one who noticed. The ceremony was minutes away. Cassandra Vale stood at the edge of the rooftop, her white dress glowing against the city skyline. Ethan Blake, the groom, had arrived, all sharp suit and sharper grin, shaking hands like he owned the world. The press snapped photos from below, their flashes like distant lightning. Riley poured a drink for a guest, her hand steady but her mind racing. She couldn't stop thinking about that license, about Mia's panic, about the way their hands had brushed earlier, electric and fleeting. She glanced at Harold, who was fidgeting near the floral arch, his glasses fogging with sweat. He was supposed to have fixed the license, but Riley didn't trust him. Not with the way he kept glancing at Cassandra, at Mia, at the jacket where the original document still sat. Something was off, and Riley's gut, honed by years of reading people in dive bars, told her this wasn't just a clerical error. "Hey," a voice snapped her back. A guest, some hedge fund guy with a Rolex, waved an empty glass. "Another whiskey. Neat." Riley nodded, pouring with practiced ease, but her eyes flicked to Mia. She was talking to Cassandra now, her voice low, her posture rigid. Riley caught the tail end of their conversation, something about the timeline, the vows. Cassandra's laugh was sharp, cutting through the hum of the crowd. "Relax, Mia. It's my day. Nothing's going to ruin it." Mia's smile was tight, professional, but Riley saw the flicker of fear in her eyes. She wanted to cross the rooftop, to tell Mia she wasn't alone in this mess. But what could she say? She was just the bartender, the nobody whose name had somehow hijacked a billionaire's wedding. The music swelled, a string quartet playing something soft and classical, and the guests took their seats. Riley's heart pounded as the officiant took his place under the arch. Harold adjusted his tie, his hands trembling. The license was still in his jacket. Riley could see its outline from where she stood. She didn't know why it mattered so much, why it felt like her entire life hinged on that piece of paper, but she couldn't shake the feeling that this was about to explode. Then it happened. As Cassandra and Ethan stepped toward the arch, Harold fumbled with his notes, dropping them. Paper scattered across the stone floor. And there it was, the marriage license fluttering free, landing face up for the world to see. Riley's name in bold black ink. A gasp rippled through the crowd. Mia's head whipped around, her eyes locking onto the document, then onto Riley. For a moment time stopped, the city's hum, the quartet's strings, the chatter of guests. all drowned out by the blood rushing in Riley's ears. Cassandra's smile froze. "What the hell is this?" she demanded, snatching the license from the ground. Her eyes scanned it, and her voice rose sharp and venomous. "Riley Carter? Who the fuck is Riley Carter?" Every head turned. Riley felt the weight of their stares like needles piercing her skin. She wanted to run, to disappear into the city below, but her feet were rooted to the spot. Mia stepped forward, her voice calm but strained. "It's a mistake, Cassandra. A clerical error. We're fixing it." "Fixing it?" Cassandra's laugh was a blade. "This is my wedding, Mia. My wedding. And you let some nobody's name get on my license." Riley's face burned, her hands balling into fists. Nobody. The word stung, but it wasn't new. She'd been called worse, by foster parents, by bosses, by the world that never let her forget her place. But hearing it now with Mia standing there silent, hurt worse than anything. "I'm sorry," Mia said, her voice steady but her eyes pleading. "It's being corrected. It won't affect the ceremony." Cassandra's eyes narrowed, flicking to Riley. "You, bartender. This your idea of a prank?" Riley's throat tightened, but she forced herself to speak. "I didn't do this. I don't even know how it happened." Ethan stepped forward, his voice smooth but cold. "Then why's your name on my fiancé's license?" The question hung in the air, unanswered. Riley's mind raced, grasping for an explanation, but there was none. She glanced at Harold, who was sweating profusely, his eyes darting to the exit. He knew something. She was sure of it. Mia's voice cut through the tension. "Everyone, please take your seats. We'll proceed as planned." She turned to Harold, her tone icy. "Get the new license. Now." Harold nodded, scrambling away, but Riley's gut twisted. She didn't trust him, didn't trust this moment. The crowd murmured, their whispers like static, and Cassandra's glare could have burned through steel. But it was Mia's silence that hurt most. The way she avoided Riley's eyes, her focus locked on damage control. As the quartet started again, signaling the start of the ceremony, Riley slipped away from the bar, her hands shaking. She didn't belong here. Not in this world of wealth and power. Not in Mia's carefully curated life. But as she reached the edge of the rooftop, she saw Harold near the service elevator, slipping the original license into a folder. He looked up, caught her staring, and froze. "What are you hiding?" Riley asked, her voice low, stepping closer. Harold's eyes widened. "Nothing. It's just a mistake." "Bullshit." Riley's voice was a growl. She'd spent her life reading people. Liars, cheaters, hustlers, and Harold was all three. "You know how my name got on that license? Tell me." He backed away, clutching the folder. "You don't understand. This isn't about you." "Then who's it about?" Riley pressed, her heart pounding. She didn't know why she cared, why she couldn't just walk away. But something about this, about Mia, about the way their worlds had collided, made her stay. Harold's mouth opened, then closed. Before he could answer, Mia's voice called from the arch, "Riley. We need you at the bar." Riley hesitated, her eyes locked on Harold. She wanted answers, but Mia's voice pulled her back. A tether she couldn't break. She turned, leaving Harold to his secrets, but not before slipping the folder from his hands in a quick, practiced move. Years in rough bars had taught her how to lift something without being seen. Back at the bar, she tucked the folder under a stack of napkins, her pulse racing. The ceremony began, Cassandra and Ethan exchanging vows, the crowd applauding, but Riley barely heard it. Her eyes found Mia, standing at the edge of the crowd, her face a mask of control. But Riley saw the cracks, the way her fingers twisted together, the way her breath hitched when their gazes met. This wasn't over. Not the license, not the mistake, not them. Riley didn't know what she'd find in that folder. But she knew one thing. She wasn't nobody. Not anymore. The vows echoed across the rooftop, each word from Cassandra and Ethan polished to perfection, like lines from a script. The crowd sighed, cameras flashed, and the string quartet swelled. But Riley's world narrowed to the folder hidden beneath the bar. Her name on that marriage license wasn't just a mistake. It was a key, and she was determined to find the lock it opened. Her fingers itched to tear it open, but Mia's presence, a quiet force at the edge of the ceremony, kept her grounded. For now. The air was warm, heavy with the scent of roses and the faint tang of spilled champagne from earlier. Riley's vest clung to her skin, her cropped hair damp at the nape of her neck. She poured drinks on autopilot, her movements mechanical, but her eyes kept darting to Mia. The wedding planner stood near the floral arch, her clipboard a shield, her hazel eyes scanning the crowd for any sign of trouble. Riley knew that look. Mia was holding her breath, waiting for the other shoe to drop. The ceremony ended with a cheer, guests rising to clap as Cassandra and Ethan kissed. Riley's stomach twisted, not from the display but from the weight of the folder under the bar. She'd lifted it from Harold in a moment of instinct, but now it felt like a live wire in her hands. What was he hiding? And why did it involve her? As the crowd shifted toward the reception area, Mia approached the bar, her steps quick but measured. "You holding up?" she asked, her voice low, almost drowned by the chatter and clink of glasses. Riley forced a smirk, leaning against the bar. "Surviving. You." Mia's lips twitched, but her eyes were tired, shadowed. "Barely." She glanced at the guests, then back at Riley, her voice dropping. "That license thing, it's handled, right?" Riley's heart skipped. She could tell Mia about the folder, about Harold's shifty eyes, but something held her back. Trust was a fragile thing, and Riley had learned long ago not to give it freely. "Yeah," she lied, her voice steady. "All good." Mia nodded, but her gaze lingered, searching. "You'd tell me if something was wrong, wouldn't you?" Riley's throat tightened. She wanted to say yes, to spill everything, the folder, her fear. The way Mia's voice made her feel like she was falling. But instead she shrugged. "Sure. Now go be the boss. They're waiting for you." Mia hesitated, her fingers brushing the edge of the bar, close enough to Riley's hand to send a jolt through her. Then she turned, disappearing into the crowd, her blazer a sharp silhouette against the sea of guests. Riley waited until the reception was in full swing, guests laughing, music pulsing, before slipping the folder out. She ducked behind the bar, her pulse racing as she opened it. The marriage license stared back at her, her name in stark black ink. Riley Carter, bride. Below it, a second document, a handwritten note, scrawled in Harold's shaky script. "Cassandra knows. Fix it before she does." Riley's breath caught. Cassandra knew? Knew what? That the license was wrong? Or something more? Her mind spun, piecing together fragments, Harold's nervous tics, his glances at Cassandra, the way he'd clutched this folder like it was his lifeline. This wasn't a clerical error. Someone had put her name on that license deliberately, and Harold was covering for them. She scanned the rooftop, spotting Harold near the dessert table, his face pale as he whispered to a man in a suit, someone Riley didn't recognize, but his sharp eyes and tailored jacket screamed money. Power. She tucked the folder back under the bar, her hands shaking. She needed to talk to Mia, but not here, not now. Not with Cassandra's eyes sweeping the crowd like a hawk. The reception roared on, the city skyline glittering as the sun dipped low. Riley poured drinks, her smile forced, her mind a storm. She caught glimpses of Mia, adjusting a centerpiece, calming a drunk guest, but every time their eyes met, it was like a spark in a powder keg. Riley wanted to cross the rooftop, to pull Mia aside and demand answers, but the folder weighed her down, a secret she wasn't ready to share. Then Cassandra approached the bar, her smile as sharp as broken glass. "Riley, right?" she said, her voice syrupy but cold. "You're the one who broke my glasses earlier." Riley's jaw clenched. "Accident. Sorry." Cassandra leaned closer, her perfume overwhelming, like lilies left too long in water. "Accidents happen. But I don't like surprises." Her eyes flicked to the bar, then back to Riley, and for a moment Riley swore she saw something, recognition maybe, or suspicion. "Keep the drinks flowing, okay? It's my day." Riley nodded, her heart pounding as Cassandra sauntered away. The heiress knew something or suspected it. The note in Harold's folder flashed in her mind. Cassandra knows. But what? And why did it involve Riley, a nobody who'd spent her life scraping by? As the night deepened, the crowd grew louder, looser. Riley's hands moved faster, pouring whiskey, mixing martinis, but her eyes kept finding Mia. She was laughing with the guest now, her head tilted back, her throat exposed in a way that made Riley's breath catch. She hated how much she wanted her. How much it hurt to see her in this world where Riley didn't belong. Then Harold reappeared, his face flushed, his glasses crooked. He reached for his jacket, still draped over the bar, and froze when he saw Riley watching. "Where's the folder?" he hissed, his voice low but panicked. Riley leaned forward, her voice a quiet threat. "Somewhere safe. Wanna tell me what's going on, Harold?" His eyes darted to the crowd, then back to her. "You don't know what you're messing with. Give it back." "Not until you tell me why my name's on that license," Riley shot back, her heart racing. She could feel the eyes of the crowd, the weight of Cassandra's presence, the pull of Mia across the rooftop. This wasn't just about a mistake anymore. This was about power, secrets, and something much bigger than her. Harold's mouth opened, but before he could speak, Mia's voice cut through the noise. "Riley, we need more ice." She was striding toward the bar, her face tense, unaware of the standoff unfolding. Riley held Harold's gaze for one more second, then turned to Mia, forcing a smile. "On it, boss." But as she grabbed the ice bucket, her mind was on the folder, on Harold's fear, on the truth she was about to uncover. The night was young, and the rooftop was a stage. Riley didn't know her role yet, but she was done playing invisible. The ice bucket was cold against Riley's palms, grounding her as she wove through the crowd, the rooftop alive with laughter and clinking glasses. The city skyline sparkled, a glittering backdrop to the chaos unfolding in her head. The folder, her name on that license, Harold's cryptic note, was a puzzle she couldn't solve, not yet. But every glance at Mia, now directing caterers with her usual precision, made Riley's chest ache with a need to protect her, to unravel this before it tore Mia's world apart. The air smelled of expensive perfume and grilled hors d'oeuvres, the string quartet's melody weaving through the hum of voices. Riley's vest was damp with sweat, her cropped hair sticking to her forehead as she hauled the ice back to the bar. Harold was gone, vanished into the crowd, but his panic lingered in her mind. "Cassandra knows." The words from his note burned, a warning she couldn't ignore. Mia caught her eye as she approached, her hazel gaze sharp but softened by something unspoken. "You're slow tonight," Mia teased, but her voice was strained, her smile a fragile thing. She stepped closer, lowering her voice. "Everything okay? You look off." Riley's heart thudded. She wanted to tell Mia about the folder, about Harold's fear, but the words stuck. Mia was already stretched thin, her career hanging by a thread. Dumping this on her now would be like tossing a match into gasoline. "Just tired," Riley lied, dumping the ice into the cooler. "Big day." Mia's eyes searched hers like she could see through the lie. "Don't do that," she said softly. "Don't shut me out." Riley's breath caught, her hand pausing on the ice scoop. The noise of the reception faded, the chatter, the music, the clink of glasses, until it was just them, the air between them heavy with everything unsaid. "I'm not," Riley said, her voice rough. I don't want to mess this up for you." Mia's lips parted, but before she could respond, Cassandra's voice cut through the moment like a knife. "Mia, we need you for the toast." The heiress stood by the head table, her white dress glowing under the string lights, her smile as sharp as ever. Mia exhaled a small frustrated sound and stepped back. "Duty calls," she muttered. But her hand brushed Riley's wrist as she turned, a fleeting touch that sent sparks up Riley's arm. Then she was gone, swallowed by the crowd, leaving Riley with the weight of the folder and a heart that wouldn't stop racing. Riley slipped behind the bar, her hands shaking as she pulled the folder out again. She opened it, rereading Harold's note. "Cassandra knows." Fix it before she does. Below it, a second page. A photocopy of an email dated 2 days ago from an anonymous account to Harold. Put Riley Carter's name on the license. Make it look like an error. You'll be paid. Her stomach dropped. This wasn't a mistake. Someone had targeted her, used her name to sabotage the wedding, or something worse. But why? She was nobody, a bartender with no connections, no power. The only thing that made sense was Mia. Her career, her reputation, her life in this glittering world. Was this about hurting her? Riley's eyes scanned the crowd, landing on Cassandra. The heiress was laughing, her arm linked with Ethan's, but her gaze flicked toward the bar, meeting Riley's for a split second. It was enough to make Riley's skin crawl. Cassandra knew something, and Riley was starting to think it wasn't just about the license. She tucked the folder away, her mind racing. She needed to find Harold to make him talk, but he was nowhere in sight. The reception was in full swing now. Guests dancing, champagne flowing, the city's pulse blending with the music. Riley poured drinks, her smile mechanical, but her eyes kept searching for Mia. She was by the head table now, coordinating the toast, her movements graceful but tense. Riley wanted to protect her, to keep her safe from whatever this was, but she didn't even know where to start. Then she saw him, Harold, slipping toward the service elevator again, his jacket clutched to his chest. Riley's pulse spiked. She couldn't let him disappear, not with what she'd found. She grabbed a tray of empty glasses as an excuse, weaving through the crowd, her heart pounding in her ears. "Harold," she called, catching up to him just as he reached the elevator. The doors were open, the dim light inside casting shadows on his pale face. "We need to talk." He froze, his eyes wide behind his glasses. "Leave it alone, Riley. You don't know what you're getting into." "Then tell me," she said, stepping closer, her voice low but firm. "Why's my name on that license? Who paid you?" Harold's hands trembled, the folder slipping from his grip. Riley caught it before it hit the ground, her fingers brushing the paper that held her name. "I didn't want to," he whispered, his voice breaking. "They said it was just a prank, a way to mess with Cassandra. But then you were here, and it got complicated." "Who's they?" Riley pressed, her voice a growl. The elevator dinged, the doors starting to close, but she slammed her hand against them, holding them open. "Talk, Harold." He swallowed hard, his eyes darting to the crowd. "I can't. Not here. Meet me in the service stairwell in 10 minutes. I'll tell you everything." Riley hesitated, her gut screaming that this was a bad idea. But she nodded, stepping back as the elevator doors closed, swallowing Harold's panicked face. She tucked the folder into her vest, her mind racing. 10 minutes. She could keep it together that long. Back at the bar, the party roared on, oblivious to the storm brewing. Mia was near the dance floor now, laughing with a guest, but her eyes found Riley's across the rooftop. For a moment it was like the world stopped, the music, the laughter, the chaos, leaving only the two of them, tethered by something neither could name. Riley wanted to run to her to tell her everything, but the folder in her vest felt like a lead weight. She had 10 minutes to get answers, to figure out who was pulling the strings and why her name was caught in the middle. She poured another drink, her hands steady but her heart a wild thing, and counted down the seconds. As the clock ticked closer, Riley's eyes drifted to Cassandra, now dancing with Ethan, her smile perfect but her gaze sharp, scanning the crowd. Then it landed on Riley, and the heiress's lips curved just slightly like a predator catching a scent. Riley's blood ran cold. Whatever was happening, it was bigger than a clerical error, and she was running out of time to stop it. The rooftop glowed under strings of golden lights, the city skyline a glittering cage around the pulsing reception. Riley's heart hammered as she slipped away from the bar, the folder tucked inside her vest like a secret she couldn't outrun. The air was thick with laughter, the clink of glasses, and the faint scent of jasmine from the centerpieces, but all she could hear was the countdown in her head. 10 minutes. Harold had promised answers in the service stairwell, and Riley was done waiting. Her boots echoed on the stone floor as she moved toward the back of the venue, weaving through drunk guests and overworked caterers. Mia was across the rooftop, adjusting a microphone for the speeches, her hazel eyes catching the light. Riley's chest tightened. She wanted to tell Mia everything, to pull her into this mess and face it together. But Mia was already drowning in her own chaos. Riley couldn't add to it. Not yet. The service stairwell was tucked behind a heavy metal door, its paint chipped and faded compared to the rooftop's polished glamour. Riley pushed it open, the hinges creaking, and stepped into the dim concrete space. The air was cooler here, smelling of dust and old metal, a stark contrast to the perfumed excess outside. Her pulse thudded in her ears as she waited, the folder heavy against her ribs. Harold appeared a minute later, his glasses fogged, his tie askew. "You shouldn't be here," he hissed, glancing over his shoulder like he expected someone to follow. "This is bigger than you." "Then explain it," Riley said, her voice low, steady despite the storm in her chest. She held up the folder, the marriage license peeking out. "Why's my name on this? Who paid you?" Harold's hand shook as he wiped sweat from his brow. "It was supposed to be a joke," he stammered. "A way to embarrass Cassandra. She's got enemies, okay? People who want to see her squirm." "Who?" Riley stepped closer, her boots scuffing the concrete. "Give me a name." Harold's eyes darted to the door, his voice dropping to a whisper. "I don't know. It was anonymous. An email, a wire transfer, 10 grand to slip your name onto the license. They said it'd be funny, a scandal for the tabloids. I didn't think it'd go this far." Riley's stomach twisted. 10 grand to ruin her life, to drag her into a billionaire's world. "Why me?" she asked, her voice rough. "I'm nobody." Harold hesitated, his mouth opening then closing. They knew you worked for Mia. That's all I know." Mia. The name hit Riley like a punch. This wasn't about her, it was about Mia, about her career, her reputation. Someone wanted to hurt her, and Riley was just collateral damage. Her hands balled into fists, the folder crumpling slightly in her grip. "Who's they, Harold? You're not this stupid." Before he could answer, the door swung open and Mia stood there, her blazer slightly askew, her eyes wide with confusion. "Riley? What the hell are you doing back here?" Riley froze, her heart lurching. Harold paled, backing against the wall like a trapped animal. "Mia," Riley started, but the words caught in her throat. How could she explain this without breaking everything? Mia's gaze flicked to the folder, then to Harold, her voice sharp. "What's going on?" Harold bolted, shoving past Mia toward the door. Riley lunged, grabbing his arm, but he yanked free, disappearing into the chaos of the reception. "Shit," Riley muttered, her pulse racing. She turned to Mia, the folder still in her hand, her mind scrambling for an explanation. "Riley," Mia said, her voice low, almost pleading. "Tell me what's happening. Now." Riley exhaled, her breath shaky. She opened the folder, showing Mia the license, the note, the email. "It's not a mistake," she said, her voice rough with anger and fear. "Someone paid Harold to put my name on this. To mess with Cassandra. Or with you." Mia's face paled, her eyes scanning the documents. "Me," she whispered, her fingers trembling as she touched the paper. "Why would anyone?" "I don't know," Riley cut in, her voice breaking. "But it's not random. They knew I worked for you. They used me to get to you." Mia's breath hitched, her eyes meeting Riley's. For a moment the stairwell was silent, the distant thrum of the reception muffled by the heavy door. "Why didn't you tell me?" Mia asked, her voice soft but laced with hurt. "I didn't want to drag you into this," Riley said, stepping closer. The air between them crackled, the folder a barrier and a bridge. "You've got enough to deal with. This wedding, your career." "My career?" Mia's laugh was bitter, her eyes glistening. "You think I care about that more than—" She stopped, her cheeks flushing, but the words hung there, unfinished. Riley's heart pounded, her hand reaching out before she could stop herself, brushing Mia's arm. "More than what?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. Mia's lips parted, but before she could answer, a shout echoed from the rooftop. Mia! Where are you? It was Cassandra's assistant, her voice sharp with impatience. Mia pulled back, her mask slipping into place, but her eyes stayed on Riley's, heavy with everything unsaid. I have to go, she said, but it sounded like an apology. Riley nodded, her throat tight. Go. I'll handle this. Mia hesitated, then turned, slipping back through the door. Riley stood alone in the stairwell, the folder heavy in her hands. She didn't know who was behind this, but she knew one thing. They'd underestimated her. She wasn't just a bartender, not tonight. She was a spark, and this rooftop was about to ignite. She tucked the folder into her vest and headed back to the reception, her boots echoing with purpose. The crowd was louder now, the dance floor packed, but Riley's eyes locked onto Cassandra. The heiress was at the center of it all, her laugh too bright, her gaze too sharp. Riley didn't know what Cassandra knew, but she was done being a pawn. As she reached the bar, she saw Harold again, slipping toward the exit with a phone pressed to his ear. She moved to follow, but a hand grabbed her arm. Ethan, the groom, his smile tight. You're Riley, right? He said, his voice smooth but cold. We need to talk. Riley's blood ran cold. The folder burned against her chest, and the rooftop seemed to close in around her. Whatever this was, it was bigger than she'd imagined, and she was running out of time to figure it out. Ethan's grip on Riley's arm was firm, his polished smile a mask that didn't reach his eyes. The rooftop spun around her, the laughter of guests, the clink of glasses, the pulse of music, but his voice cut through it all, low and deliberate. Let's take a walk, he said, steering her toward the edge of the venue, away from the crowd. The city skyline loomed, its lights sharp against the darkening sky, and the air carried the faint bite of cigarette smoke from a guest nearby. Riley's heart pounded, the folder in her vest a secret she couldn't hide much longer. What do you want? She asked, yanking her arm free. Her voice was rough, edged with the defiance that had carried her through years of hard nights. Ethan Blake, tech mogul, billionaire groom, was a stranger to her, but his presence felt like a threat. He leaned against a railing, his suit impeccable, his eyes scanning her like she was a problem to solve. You're the bartender, right? The one whose name ended up on my marriage license. His tone was casual, but there was a steel beneath it, a warning. Riley's jaw clenched. Wasn't my idea. I'm just here to pour drinks. Ethan's laugh was short, humorless. Sure. But you're not just anything, are you? I saw you talking to Harold. Sneaking around with that folder. His eyes flicked to her vest, and Riley's stomach dropped. He knew. She forced herself to stay calm, her hands steady despite the adrenaline flooding her veins. You got a point? Or you just like hassling the help? Ethan's smile tightened. My fiancé's wedding is a circus, and your name's the main act. I want to know why. Riley's mind raced. The email in the folder put Riley Carter's name on the license. Make it look like an error. Flashed in her head. Someone had paid Harold to sabotage the wedding, to drag Riley into it. But Ethan's tone, his posture, suggested he wasn't surprised. Was he part of this? Or was he fishing, trying to see what she knew? I don't know why, she said, her voice steady but her heart racing. But I'm guessing you do. Ethan's eyes narrowed, but before he could respond, Mia appeared, her blazer slightly rumpled, her clipboard gone. Riley, she said, her voice sharp with worry. What's going on? Ethan's smile returned, slick and practiced. Just getting to know the staff, Mia. You've got a real star here. He nodded at Riley, then sauntered back to the crowd, leaving a chill in his wake. Mia's eyes locked onto Riley's, her breath uneven. What was that about? She asked, stepping closer. The scent of her perfume, citrus and cedar, cut through the rooftop's haze, grounding Riley even as her pulse raced. He knows about the license, Riley said, her voice low. She hesitated, then pulled the folder from her vest, handing it to Mia. And this? Mia's hands trembled as she opened it, her eyes scanning the license, the note, the email. "Oh my God," she whispered, her face paling. "Someone did this on purpose?" "Yeah," Riley said, her throat tight. "And they used me to get to you." Mia's eyes met hers, wide with fear but burning with something else. Anger maybe, or resolve. "Why me? I'm just the planner. This is Cassandra's wedding." Riley shook her head, her mind racing. "You're not just anything, Mia. You're the one who makes this world work. Someone wants to hurt you, and I'm caught in the middle." Mia's breath hitched, her fingers brushing Riley's as she handed back the folder. The touch was fleeting, but it sent a jolt through Riley, a reminder of the tether between them. "We need to find Harold," Mia said, her voice steady now, like she was slipping into battle mode. "He knows more than he's saying." Riley nodded, but her eyes drifted to the crowd, where Cassandra was laughing with guests, her gaze flicking toward them every few seconds. "And Cassandra," Riley said. "She's not as clueless as she seems." Mia's jaw tightened. "Then we confront them. Together." The word together hit Riley like a spark. She wanted to grab Mia, to pull her close and promise they'd get through this. But the rooftop was a minefield and they were running out of time. "Okay," she said, her voice rough. "Let's do this." They moved through the crowd, the music pulsing, the air thick with champagne and secrets. Riley spotted Harold near the dessert table, his hands shaking as he stuffed a phone into his pocket. She grabbed Mia's arm, nodding toward him. "There." They approached, Mia's heels clicking with purpose, Riley's boots heavy against the stone. Harold saw them coming and froze, his glasses slipping down his nose. "I told you," he stammered, backing away. "Leave it alone." "No chance," Riley said, her voice a growl. She held up the folder, the license glinting under the lights. "Start talking, Harold. Who paid you? And why me?" Harold's eyes darted to Mia, then to the crowd where Cassandra was watching, her smile tight. "It's not about you," he whispered, his voice breaking. "It's about her." Riley followed his gaze, her heart sinking. Cassandra, the heiress, wasn't just a victim of a prank. She was the center of this. But why? And how did Mia fit into it? Before Riley could press further, Cassandra's voice rang out, sharp and commanding. "Mia, we need you for the cake cutting." The crowd parted, and there she was, her white dress glowing, her eyes locked on them like a predator. Mia's hand brushed Riley's, a silent promise. "We're not done," she whispered, then turned to face Cassandra, her mask back in place. Riley stood frozen, the folder heavy in her hands. Harold slipped away, disappearing into the crowd, but Riley didn't chase him. Not yet. Her eyes found Mia, standing tall under the weight of Cassandra's stare, and something clicked. This wasn't just about a license or a prank. This was about power, about control, about a world that wanted to keep people like Riley and Mia in their place. She tucked the folder back into her vest, her resolve hardening. She didn't know the whole truth, but she knew one thing. She wasn't letting Mia face this alone. Not tonight. Not ever. The rooftop was a kaleidoscope of light and sound, golden strings of bulbs swaying in the breeze, the crowd's laughter rising over the pulse of music. But for Riley, it was all static, drowned out by the weight of the folder in her vest and the fire in her chest. Cassandra's call for the cake cutting had pulled Mia away, but Riley's eyes tracked her across the venue, her sleek blazer a beacon in the chaos. Mia was fighting to keep this wedding perfect, but Riley knew the truth. Perfection was a lie, and this night was unraveling. The air was heavy with the scent of sugar and champagne, the cake's vanilla frosting mingling with the city's distant tang of asphalt and exhaust. Riley's hand shook as she poured another round of drinks, her mind replaying Harold's words. It's about her. Cassandra. The heiress wasn't just a bride. She was a player in this game, and Riley's name on that license was no accident. She scanned the crowd, spotting Cassandra near the cake table, her smile radiant but her eyes cold, calculating. Ethan stood beside her, his arm around her waist, but his gaze kept drifting, to Mia, to the bar, to Riley. The folder burned against her ribs, its contents a map to a truth she was only starting to understand. Someone had paid Harold to sabotage the wedding to hurt Mia, and Cassandra was at the heart of it. Riley's boots hit the stone floor as she moved toward the cake table, her pulse a drumbeat in her ears. She didn't have a plan, but she had the folder and she had Mia. That was enough. As she approached, Mia caught her eye, her expression a mix of worry and determination. "Riley," she whispered, stepping away from the table. "What are you doing?" "We need to end this," Riley said, her voice low, urgent. She pulled the folder from her vest, holding it between them like a shield. "Cassandra knows something. Harold said it's about her." Mia's eyes widened, flicking to the folder, then to Cassandra, who was laughing with a guest but watching them from the corner of her eye. "What do you mean about her?" Before Riley could answer, Cassandra's voice cut through the noise, sharp and sweet. "Mia, Riley, join us. It's time for the cake." Her smile was a blade and Riley's gut twisted. This wasn't an invitation, it was a summons. Mia hesitated, her hand brushing Riley's, a fleeting anchor. "Stay close," she whispered, then led the way to the table, her posture rigid but her eyes fierce. The crowd gathered, cameras flashing as Cassandra and Ethan posed with the cake knife, their smiles practiced for the tabloids. Riley stood at the edge, the folder hidden in her vest, her heart pounding. She caught Harold's eye across the crowd. He was near the exit, his face pale, his hands fidgeting. He was ready to bolt, but Riley wasn't letting him go. As the cake was cut, the crowd cheered, but Cassandra's gaze locked onto Riley, her smile never wavering. "Riley, wasn't it?" she said, her voice carrying over the noise. "Come here. Let's have a toast." Riley's blood ran cold. She stepped forward, her boots heavy, Mia at her side. "Sure," she said, her voice steady despite the storm inside her. "What are we toasting to?" Cassandra's eyes gleamed. "To surprises," she said, raising a glass. The crowd echoed her, but Riley saw the truth in her stare. This was a challenge, a dare to see how far Riley would go. Mia's hand brushed Riley's again, a silent signal. "To surprises," Mia echoed, her voice calm but her eyes burning with questions. The toast ended and the crowd dispersed, but Cassandra lingered, her gaze fixed on Riley. "You're quite the mystery, aren't you?" she said, stepping closer. "A bartender with her name on my marriage license. Funny how that happens." Riley's jaw clenched. "Not my doing. But I'm guessing you know that." Cassandra's smile didn't falter, but her eyes narrowed. "Careful, Riley. You're playing in a world you don't understand." Before Riley could respond, Mia stepped forward, her voice sharp. "Cassandra, this is my event. If there's a problem, you deal with me." Cassandra's laugh was soft, dangerous. "Oh, Mia. There's always a problem with you." She turned away, rejoining Ethan, but her words lingered, a threat wrapped in silk. Riley's hands balled into fists, the folder crinkling in her vest. "She's behind this," she whispered to Mia. "I don't know how, but she is." Mia nodded, her face pale but resolute. "Then we confront her. Now." They moved together, slipping through the crowd toward the service stairwell where Riley had last seen Harold. He was there, fumbling with his phone, his face slick with sweat. "Harold," Riley called, her voice a growl. "No more running." He froze, his eyes wide. "I told you, it's not about you." "Then who?" Mia demanded, stepping forward, her voice like steel. "Who paid you to do this?" Harold's mouth opened, but before he could speak, a shadow moved behind him. Ethan, his face unreadable. "Enough," he said, his voice low, commanding. "You're done, Harold." Harold's knees buckled, and he sank against the wall, his glasses fogging. "I didn't mean for it to go this far," he stammered. "Cassandra, she wanted to test you, Mia. To see if you'd crack under pressure. The license was her idea." Riley's heart stopped. "Cassandra. Not an enemy, not a stranger, the bride herself." "Why?" she demanded, stepping closer. "Why drag me into it?" Harold's eyes darted to Ethan, then back to Riley. "She wanted to humiliate Mia. To prove she's not as perfect as everyone thinks. Your name, it was just convenient. You were close to her." Mia's breath hitched, her eyes glistening. Cassandra did this to ruin me? Ethan's voice was cold. Cassandra likes control. And you, Mia, were a threat to that. He turned to Riley, his gaze sharp. You were just a means to an end. Riley's blood boiled, her hands shaking with rage. She'd been used, her life twisted into a game for a billionaire's amusement. But it wasn't just about her, it was about Mia, about the woman who'd fought her way to the top, only to be targeted for it. Mia's voice was steady, but her hands trembled. We're done here, she said, turning to Riley. Let's go. But Riley wasn't done. She stepped toward Ethan, her voice low, fierce. Tell Cassandra this isn't over. She doesn't get to play with people's lives and walk away. Ethan's smile was thin, unyielding. Careful, Riley. You're out of your depth. Mia grabbed Riley's arm, pulling her back. Not now, she whispered, her eyes pleading. We'll figure this out. Together. The word together was a lifeline. Riley nodded, her heart racing as they slipped back to the rooftop. The party raged on, oblivious, but for Riley and Mia, the night had shifted. They weren't just fighting for answers, they were fighting for each other. As the reception wound down, Riley looked at Mia, her blazer rumpled, her eyes fierce with resolve. The folder was still in Riley's vest, a reminder of the truth they'd uncovered. Cassandra had played her game, but Riley wasn't a pawn anymore. And neither was Mia. They stood at the edge of the rooftop, the city sprawling below, its lights a promise of something bigger. What now? Riley asked, her voice soft, raw. Mia's hand found hers, their fingers intertwining, warm and sure. We fight, she said, her voice steady. For us. Riley's heart swelled, the weight of the night lifting just a little. One tiny error had brought them here to this moment, and for the first time Riley didn't feel like nobody.